Today we're going to chat through kind of the issues with the UX event mappings in like Tokyo and Utah and how that can affect when you duplicate pages and then try to promote those pages. Kind of first, symptoms of the problem. You'll find that once you've duplicated a page, be that a list page or a record page, some of the buttons will be dead, won't function once you get up to a higher environment. Here I have a list page, I'm trying to use new, and I'm unable to. Maybe on a record page, another instance where this is pretty common is with these search buttons or with these reference decorators, these aren't functional. It's pretty frustrating since this doesn't show up in a lower environment. If I duplicate in dev per se, uh, it will function. But then if I try to move up to test or prod, the files, the records that make this work won't be there. And so they'll break, and then on a clone down, the records that were making it work will get nuked from dev, and then you'll have none of the records that kind of map these actions to actual events on the page. And so first, I'm going to go through kind of what's going wrong, and then we can go into how to fix it. And so I'm going to be using a record page today to duplicate, but this is true for all pages in UI Builder, regardless of workspace, regardless of page like page variant that you're duplicating, as far as I can tell. And there's a caveat at the end about Vancouver, but for Utah, for Tokyo, this is all true. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to open up UI Builder. I'm going to come to and you can see I've already kind of made this problem happen on purpose, but we're going to replicate it ourselves. So I'm going to come to our record page, got a lot of tests. And I'm coming to record default. And I'm just going to, well, actually, I should start in Studio. And in Studio, I'm going to make my own application. I already have been testing, but we're going to do this from scratch. I'm going to make an application. I'm going to name it community test, create that scoped application, and continue in Studio. I don't need roles or anything. I just need a scoped application to exist. And so what I'll do from here is I'll pop into just ServiceNow proper, check I'm in the right update set. I am. Good to go. I'll give this a refresh just to make sure that I'm in the update set again. I'm part of community test scope. And so now I'm going to say, okay, I'd like to make my own record page. Maybe I have custom contextual sidebar elements I want. Maybe I have an enhancement to the header or record page tags. Lots of reasons I might want to enhance this. And ServiceNow does it for their own record types as well. So it's not out of the what is normal. And so what I would do here is I'd come here and I'd say, okay, I'd like to duplicate the variant. So I'd pick duplicate variant. I would name my duplicated variant. I'm going to call this community test duplicate. And I'm going to duplicate the variant. And then we're going to wait for it to duplicate. Whatever happens, whatever I do to this will now be kind of the record default. This is has no conditions, no audiences, and so it's going to trump all the other record pages in CSM. So I had to make sure that my variant order was low enough. I had two -100 ones, which is problematic. But now we see this all works. So I'm glad to see that. And so now that we see that these work, let's go into where these events are mapped to and then kind of where it goes wrong. And so first we're going to locate the mappings themselves, those records that kind of make this work or are part of what makes it work. And so I'll come into UI Builder. I will come to my editor, and in Utah, the menu will be here under developer. In Tokyo, it's going to be kind of here, and it's going to be still under developer, and you're looking for just open page definition. And that's going to open my current variant in its macroponent record. The macroponent record kind of specifies what's actually on the page. This is all basically what's actually driving UI Builder. We don't really need to look at any of this. We just need the sysid. In this case, I named my guy really well, so it's less important, but in a lot of cases, macroponents will be named something frustrating, and it's pretty annoying to get to. I'm going to then return to platform, and I'm going to need to go to the mapping table. There's no there's no module for it, and so I just need to know the table. In this case, it's sys add-on mapping, add-on event mapping. It's in the description most likely. And if you're um, living in the Stone Ages and don't have ServiceNow utils, you can put that in here and do a dot list. But if you're not living in the Stone Ages, just open your slash command, open up the table. And so here, these are all the event mappings mapping from macro opponent to event, and kind of also macro opponent and declarative action to event. And so where this goes wrong is that this record somehow disappears. So let's go into why. So if I go to my parent macro opponent and I'm going to do a filter here, so I'm going to say, hey, I want all the parent macro opponents, all the records where the parent macro opponent is. I know that it's called community test, so I could do this pretty easily. But if you don't know what it's called, or if it's called, for instance, list, if I look up list here, that's not helpful. And so that's why I said grab the sysid, because here we can come to sysid starts with, I'll have to re-grab that sysid real quick. Let's grab it from the URL. Same thing again. Sysid is this, and then I only have one option, and I can't really mess it up. Now I'm going to filter. I'm going to see all these event mappings. What's interesting, and you'll need to add this yourself, but what's interesting is that these are all in random, well, not actually random, but what feels like random scopes. And so if I look at all these, I can see there's like 6 different scopes here. And that's really where the problem lies. So let's pop open, I know, for instance, that reference info click is the one that drives this guy right here. And that's the one I noticed broken first. It's pretty unhelpful when that doesn't work. And so I'm going to come reference info click right here. And here I see that it's in the application common page templates. Why is that? Well, the reference info click mapping itself for the default record page lives there as well. And so it seems like when UI Builder is copying it copies it over, but it doesn't update this application. And so we're kind of getting this weird scenario where we update the parent macro opponent, but we don't update the application. It gets even weirder though, because if we drop into the update, we'll see that our update lives in our default update set for our scoped application. So I have my community test update set. This is the default update set that gets generated. And so this update actually lives in that default update set, which is pretty unusual because this update technically lives in the scope component, common components. Let's see if I can find it. Did I close it? Nope. Did I open it? I'm lost. I'm just gonna more ServiceNow utils things. I'm gonna just grab this SSID from here, throw it in a slash command. It's gonna take me there instantly. Right, common page templates. If I look for other common, other guys that are like this, I'm gonna look for other guys from common page templates that have reference info in it. We'll see that the out of the box one, which is just this guy, is in the same exact application. And so this becomes kind of a ghost update, since I have an application update in an update set for my scoped app, but the update itself is for a different scope. If I go scope here, you'll see the scope is common page templates. So this is problematic. And so is the package, right? Both of these are incorrect. What this means is that I can't move this record without some manual intervention now. If I pop up in my update set, we'll actually see these guys in there. If I come all the way to, we'll just do a search here on mapping. These are here, but they're pointing to scopes that don't have anything to do with this update set. And so if I, for instance, decide to wrap up this update set real quick, and so I'll close it, and then I'll need to refind it, of course. So if I jump to my update set that's complete, and I export to XML, or I can even do a scan, for instance. Let's see if there are warnings. I don't know if there will be. Nope. So there's not even any warnings. And so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna try to load this update set, and I'm gonna try to load it in this instance. Well, I'm gonna try to load it in a Vancouver instance because that's what I have on standby. And so I'm gonna pop open a Vancouver instance, and then I'm gonna go to retrieved update sets. Um, Go away thing. There you go. I'm going to pop this open. I'm going to choose my most recent update set. It's 630. So I'm going to need to find him. And you'll notice when I try to upload this update set, it's actually not going to work. I'm going to run into an issue. It's not going to retrieve. If I check the logs, there's going to be nothing interesting. This is older than when I just updated. That's 5 hours ago. Make sure I'm sorted correctly. Same thing. Let's see. Just now. Maybe that's it, but I don't think so. That's a pretty common interaction problem. So yeah, it's not in here, is what I should say. So the update set's almost broken. Um, if I come back here and I decide to go to my application, open up Studio, and I choose to go to my settings, and I'm going to publish my application to an update set. It's not, sorry, I've been doing so many testing. So I'm going to publish this to an update set, and I'm going to find that amongst these application files, there's not going to be those mappings. So there's 305, 304 application files here. There's 19 plus 305, right? 322, 304, 19. So there's these application files aren't even captured anywhere. If I'm promoting my applications through update sets, those become updates that never go anywhere. I haven't tried this with the publish functionality because it's a pain with my instances I have. I can't do it from here, but I assume it's pretty similar. But I won't speak to that. And so what happens then is when I come to my higher environment and I move the application, all of a sudden these, and again, I need to relocate my parent macro component, which is called community something. All of these guys won't move. They will be, only in dev. They won't move up because they're part of an incorrect update set. And even worse, they don't make their own update sets. If I look for an update set for Kotlin page templates, I'm not going to see one because this update went to my active update set, but it didn't go to an update set that was valid for it. And so these become just dead records. Pretty frustrating. And so what does this mean? Well, it means you have to do something. And there's two options I see. The first is you could move these updates into update sets that are valid for them. If I make a update set for common page templates and then move these 6 updates into that update set, I could promote that update set, or publish a customization to my business's app store. I forget the word off the top of my head right now. Alternatively, we can also kind of reinsert these records, but in my current scope. And so that's what I prefer. I think that needing to deploy 6 different application scopes every time I create a new page is pretty unrealistic. I think there's just some weirdness in publishing these update sets as part of these common page templates because then you have, the scoped application file you would expect to live with the scoped application. Otherwise, if I uninstall my community test application, these all stay, which is not the end of the world, but in my opinion, it's just better if we move these guys to the right application. And so what's the quickest way to do that? For me, I think once you've done this step where you've come this far, frankly, if you're doing this a lot, maybe write a fixed script or something. But for me, I come in, I hit insert and stay, I insert the new one, close, and I'm just going to keep doing that. I'm going to do that for all 19. Make sure you don't miss any, make sure you have 19 times 2, whatever that is, 28 when you're done. Not 28, whatever, 38. And then delete filter out those that are in the right ones and delete the ones you don't need. You might need to go one by one. You might not even need to delete the old ones. I would, but you don't have delete permissions. Okay. Yeah, you can't delete them, so you can set them inactive, and that's what I would do. And so now you have everything in the right scope. Um, Now, you might have caught this too late. It might be that you are opening this up and you did all this whole step where I'm looking for the macro component and I see nothing here. What's likely happened there is you've promoted and then you've cloned back down to dev and you've nuked away all these records. And so you're kind of in a spot where you have to recreate these records from scratch. What I would do in that case is come back to UI Builder, choose that page you duplicated from. And so in my case, I might choose record default. And then I would do the same thing. Developer, open page definition, grab the macro component. I'm going to use a slash command I have to do this because it's quicker. But here I see, here are 19 guys. Here are the kind of 19 original ones. And so what I would do here is for each of these, I would open up, let's say reference info click. I'd open this up, I'd insert, and then I would need to update this guy to be my new page. And so I need to, still have both this SSID for my old one and my new one. And I would come in and I would say, hey, um, I can just copy here. I want you to map to this. And then that would kind of reinsert, you're kind of doing the manual step of duplication that UI Builder is supposed to do for you. Um, Personally, I think this is the way to go. It means that you're promoting one update set. You're not asking someone to load 7 different ones. But you know, test. Your mileage may vary. Make your own informed decisions. So, and I frankly haven't tested the separate update sets ones because this one works for me, and I'm not, I'm happy with the reliability of this. So this is true on Utah and Tokyo. If we go to a Vancouver instance, though, there is good news. So I'm going to come into service operations, open up UI Builder, um, and I'm going to pop into, let's do service operations. Wow, there's a lot of these. um, and if I pop into service operations here, and I come to, yeah, you can see I've been testing. I'll come to record. I'm going to do list this time because list is a quicker duplication, but the exact same thing. I'm going to make a new um, scope just so that we have a completely fresh place to start. So create application, a new scope, community test scope 2, create, continue in studio. I'm going to do a refresh to make sure we're where we need to be. Just as a quick show you of what should be there, I'm going to open up page definition. I'm going to use my slash command to get to the events, but you could do this the long way around. But ServiceNow utils is your friend. We see that all these guys are spread out, same problem as before, but this is being shipped with ServiceNow's plugins. We don't need to worry about how it's getting to us. We do, but less of an issue when we're deploying our own customizations. And so here what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing, duplicate. I'm going to say community test, create. This will be much quicker than the record page because there's a lot less, making up it. And if I come in here and I go to my page definition again, I can do this. I go to my events. I just have a slash command again. We'll see that they're all in the right scope. And so that's the really big difference. What does this mean for you? Well, I think that it means that, now that you know about this, go back and look at those pages that you have duplicated and check to see if you are missing events or event mappings rather. I think that, and going forward, I think build into your workflow, checking on those events and making sure they make it into scoped applications. I think it also means that in some ways, some more rigorous testing is necessary when it comes to those events. I think that that can be kind of considered baseline functionality that doesn't really need to have really arduous regression testing every time. But that's kind of how you get caught out. And I think that knowing which events are prone to breaking and knowing to check those, kind of smoke test those in higher environments is a really good way to, catch yourself and catch, colleagues who might not have come across this before they deploy code that's going to inevitably be broken due to the weird update set problems. I think this being fixed in Vancouver speaks to, in the way it is fixed in Vancouver, where the updates are put into the correct update set per se, speaks to the solution where you reinsert the records to the current correct update set rather than the idea of deploying many update sets. If it was different in Vancouver, I still think my opinion stands, but I'm reinforced, I feel like, by that behavior in Vancouver. But it's good to see that this is fixed in some ways then, and that this is not going to be something that we have to worry about forever. But it does mean that anything made pre-Vancouver needs to be looked at, and while you're still working in pre-Vancouver instances, you need to stay on top of this.